So I recently posted this video on TikTok, and it was of Judge Lynn Toller from Divorce Court giving advice to this woman who was ending a relationship in which she felt that she had given everything to this man. And she was wondering, how is it that you give everything to a person and they still don't want you? They still don't want to be with you. And the comment section of this video got a lot of really interesting comments. There were 4 things that I noticed that I really wanted to talk to you about today. So the first one is this whole idea of just in general. How can this person not want me? How can this person not want to stay in a relationship with me when I've been so nice, when I've done everything for them? When, if they tell me to jump, I say how high. I have been so accommodating to this person. How could they want to end the relationship? A couple of things here. One, people have the right to want who they want, whether that is you or not. But also, check your motivations for this. If you are with someone and you are constantly nice to them and constantly giving with the expectation that they are going to return that affection, that is not being nice, love. That is manipulation. And I get it, because some of us were raised that way. We were raised in families where, our parents say things like, after all the things I've done for you, of course you should do this or you should do that. But at the end of the day, truly giving of yourself to another person is giving without the expectation of getting anything in return. Truly loving someone and caring for someone is treating them well without the expectation of getting anything in return. Now, that doesn't mean that you should allow someone to treat you like crap. If you are in a relationship and you are being loving and caring and giving and the person is not reciprocating and you are not being treated well, then of course you should leave. But you should not stay in a relationship expecting that because you are nice, the other person is going to be nice back. You can't expect people to love you the way that you love. You can't expect people to treat you the way that you treat others, because people were raised differently. People have different motivations. So, let's do away with that idea to begin with. When you are a good person, when you are a healthy person, you love and you treat people well because that's who you are. And you don't expect people to treat you just as well just because you do it. So the second thing is this whole idea of, well, if this person doesn't want to be in a relationship with me, they should just tell me. Like, why wouldn't he just say, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore? Oftentimes, when we are in relationships and the relationship goes downhill, the person tells you that they want out of the relationship long before they actually say those words. So that could be all of a sudden their calls become less consistent. Their text messages get inconsistent. They spend less time with you. They're just not as affectionate as they used to be. People start to tell you that they don't want to be in the relationship anymore long before they say those words. And yes, part of being in a relationship is that you should learn to be self-aware and to pick up on those things and to say, hey, I've noticed you've been distant. Is this something that's fixable? We can go to counseling or we can work it out. We can talk more about these issues that we've been having in our relationship, or is this time for the relationship to end? Yes, you want to be in a relationship with someone who is an adult and who's going to tell you that their feelings have changed. But back to my first point about expecting people to treat you a certain way just because that's how you would handle it, that doesn't always work out that way. So learning to pick up on these signals is vital when you are out here in the dating world. The third thing that I saw women commenting on was, it's just these men. These men don't know how to act right. And, you shouldn't post videos like this, because when you're posting videos like this, you're placing all the blame on the women. And, it's these men who are out here not acting right. You need to get onto them. You need to talk to them. So first of all, I am a dating coach for women. So I work with women. I do not work with men. So no, I'm not going to be out here telling men how to act right, because that's not what I do. It's not my ministry. It's not my bag. But also beyond that, the reason why I work with women is because I want those women to come from a place of empowerment. So when you are watching videos on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, and the video is about, a man not treating a woman very well, and your automatic response is, don't tell me how I should act as a woman, tell these men how they should act, how they should treat us. That comes from a place of so much disempowerment. And I know this can be hard because, believe me, I have been there. Before I met my husband, I was in an unbelievable number of trash relationships. I have dealt with all kinds of abusive situations. And yes, I can blame those men. I can blame those men's parents for how they were raised and all that. But at the end of the day, the common denominator is me. And instead of worrying about, making someone act right or making them grow up, I'm no one's mom. I'm not a babysitter. I'm not trying to fix people. Even when it comes to the women that I work with, my clients, I'm not fixing them. I'm helping them become the best version of themselves. I'm empowering them to make better choices. But they do not need to be fixed, and I don't want to fix them. So when it came to me getting out of that cycle of constantly being in bad relationships, instead of focusing on maybe I can fix this man or trying to get other people to teach men how they're supposed to act, I focused on myself. And that's one of the incredible things about healing, is that when you heal, when you mature, when you learn to work on yourself, you attract better quality people into your life. You attract better romantic relationships. You attract better friendships. Your whole circle gets better. And for the people who don't get better, like sometimes family members, you learn how to better deal with them. So instead of focusing on why won't certain people act right, contrary to what you see on social media, there are a lot of really amazing men out there. And you could spend the time focusing on, going out and meeting them, finding them, instead of worrying about the trash. And before any man who's watching this says it, yes, it goes both ways. There are trash women and there are great women too. But you get the idea. Instead of focusing on what you don't want, why not put that same amount of time and energy into going out there and getting what you do want? Going out there and finding a partner who does want to cherish you, who does want to be there for you, who is a listening ear, who is supportive, who is caring, and who is giving. Why not focus on finding that instead of spending your time trying to change a man because you treat him so nicely, because you treat him so well? So obviously, of course, one day he's going to magically wake up and decide that he should treat you well as, just the way that you treat him. It's not going to happen, sis. Move on. And that brings me to the last point. One of the reasons why people end up in these toxic, unhealthy relationships for so long is this idea of sunk cost. So I don't know if you ever took an economics class in college, but if you did, you would know that sunk costs are costs that are not recoverable. So, for example, if I decided that I wanted to start a bakery, for example, and, I was running this bakery for a little while, business went bad, and all of a sudden I had to shut the bakery down because I'm just not making enough sales, right? The sunk cost would be things like all the equipment to start this bakery, because even if I could sell some of it back, I'd be selling it back used, so I'm still not going to get all of my money back, right? It's the same in relationships. Too often, people will stay in unhealthy, toxic relationships because they've already put so much time into it. And they don't want to waste that time. They don't want to waste their 20s, 30s, or 40s because they spent a year or so into this relationship. And now they're worried about if they leave the relationship, are people going to think badly of them? Are they going to get clowned for being in a terrible relationship for so long? Are they going to be just as valuable in the dating marketplace as they were when they first entered this relationship? And here's the thing. You are not going to get that time back. I know, that sucks. But why would you continue to waste even more time? Especially when we are living longer now than we ever lived before. And if you think that it is painful and it is hurtful to, leave a relationship after spending so long being in one, you know what's even more hurtful? It's even more hurtful to waste even more time. If you think it's bad that you were in a relationship for 1 year and it turns out that this relationship didn't work out, it's not happening, how much more painful would it be to leave the relationship after 3 years, after 5 years, after 10 years? Think about all the things that you would have given up in that time. When you spend all of your time focusing on what was lost, you handicap yourself. Not only are you continuing to waste time, but you don't allow yourself to think about the possibilities that you would have if you would just leave this unhealthy, this toxic situation. I think about past relationships that I was in, and, some of which that I were in for multiple years. And I could look at those and be like, wow, I wasted so much time in that relationship and he was trash. But at the same time, I know that were I not in those relationships, then I wouldn't have learned lessons that I needed to learn before I met my husband. I know that were I not in those relationships, I wouldn't have grown as much as I did. God has this funny way of doing things in our lives. And one of those things is that we grow through other people. One of the best ways for us to grow is in our relationships with others. It is through all the people that are on this planet that we encounter that we learn what we like, what we don't like. We learn how to communicate with others. We learn, how we want to feel in the presence of others. We weren't meant to do this life alone. And yes, I mean that in terms of having a partner that you spend your life with, but just in general, we grow through our relationships with our family, with our friends, and with our partners as well. That is why the pandemic was so hard. This past, what has it been, 16, 18 months? It wasn't just this whole idea of a virus taking over in all these different countries and people dying, people getting really sick. Because yes, those are scary things, don't get me wrong. But if you think about it, one of the scariest things about this pandemic was just how isolating it was for so many people. About the fact that we went into lockdowns and, some people live alone. So they had no one that they saw during, the height of the lockdown. We went into these lockdowns and we started working from home, and you start communicating with people less. You don't talk to people as often as you used to. Even with all the technology we have, even with social media, even with cell phones, even with text messaging, there was something about the quarantine situation that made us communicate less and made things more isolating. And because of that situation, I think people are starting to realize how important relationships are. And not only how important relationships are, but how important healthy relationships are. So when we talk about this idea of being in relationships with others and being in a bad relationship, then, there's this whole idea of, well, maybe I can stay in the situation and fix it so that there's no more time wasted. If I'm able to fix the situation, that I didn't waste any time at all. I can still have my happily ever after. People don't change unless they really want to. And they have to get that motivation within themselves. You can't motivate them for them. So when you stay in an unhealthy relationship with the hope that someone is going to change, maybe they will, but there's a good chance that they won't. And, if you're thinking about committing to someone, whether it's just being in a committed relationship in general, or you're talking about marriage, ask yourself this question. Are you okay with the person as they are right now? Because that may be the way that you deal with them for the rest of your lives. They may never change. Are you going to be okay with that? Because if not, then you shouldn't be in a relationship with them. And if you already are in that relationship, it is time to get out. It is time to cut your losses.